Today's episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
All right, everybody, welcome into Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. Bit of a different look today, but that happens from time to time here because life happens, right? So Paul Russo, Nick Felice here with you as always. Nick, good to be at least chatting with you today, and it's one of our favorite episodes that we get to do every year.
Yeah, it's a great episode. A little disappointing news this afternoon hearing that my boy McCutcheon's done for the season, but you know, he was one shy of 300 home runs. Is a little disappointing, but I expect him to be back. And but yeah, always this episode's definitely one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah, so obviously NFL preview, we'll do kind of our thoughts for the season here, and then obviously some fantasy stuff as we always do, and then our picks that I alluded to a little bit earlier, obviously a couple weeks ago, that we will be keeping track of this year, and then just a couple minutes on college football before we head out here. So let's jump right in. Week 1 of the NFL is upon us. The season is here at the doorstep. And for me personally, Nick, I don't know how you feel because football is one of these sports where obviously kind of every year you just kind of go in, it's kind of wide open anyway in the first place. But this year especially, I do kind of think okay, probably the Chiefs, right? Again, as usual to a degree. But really this year, it kind of feels wide open to me on the NFL front, just maybe like it did, say, on the college front, to me as well. Do you kind of feel the same way, or I guess maybe any different kind of on the season so far?
So you're saying wide open and it's for the Super Bowl championship?
I guess in a way, yeah, or best team even for that
I
matter.
mean, I think this is like every NFL season, but there's like out of the 32 teams, I think there's a legit shot that maybe 26 of these teams could potentially make the playoffs this year. Super Bowl wise, it's kind of tough because the AFC is, in my opinion, the AFC is very loaded. The NFC is a little bit more down, but only one team can come out of each conference. And when you have the Chiefs in the AFC, it's hard to not look at them as the favorite over there. In the NFC side, it's always, we're still looking at Philadelphia and San Francisco, and can't really remember the last time we saw a repeat Super Bowl. So not too high on Chiefs Eagles going back, but right now they look like two of the bigger favorites in each conference. But it's really it's the AFC. I think it's just obviously, which is better for us because we're Washington Giant fans. I think the NFC is not getting a lot of headlines this offseason, as you probably know. The AFC side with, of course, the Jets, which would be a disappointment, and then of course Joe Burrow going down, and should be ready. It sounds like he should be ready to go. Now we got Kelsey going down. I don't think he's playing tomorrow. I don't know if it's been official yet, but I like the Chiefs. Just because of who they are, and they're like the new Patriots. I mean, you get that bye, all of a sudden all you have to do is one home game, and you're into the conference championship game, and you have to just win that, and you're in the Super Bowl again. So they're kind of in that scenario, but they do have to play in a tough division and a tough conference. So it's going to be a little challenging, and we're going to see what teams step up. I got a few teams in my mind that I think can make a surprise this year, make a splash. But I don't know if you want me to just reveal them right now, or
Let's table that for just a second because you brought up a really good point, and that is the fact that I do agree with you. I think the AFC just built wise this year is just, I don't know about way tougher or more stacked necessarily than the NFC, but I think definitely they have more of the outright players when it's all said and done there. That will be,
they're very QB heavy.
Yes. Yeah. And so, like you mentioned, right, Kansas City, right, but it's hard to obviously ignore still, right? Cincinnati, Buffalo. You'd have to imagine as long as the trajectory of the team maybe stays the same, the Chargers probably will have at least like a shout or something like that, right? Maybe even Jacksonville, the way they kind of finished the year last year. Um, and I have a hard time maybe waving the white flag. And maybe again, I just told you to table right, Nick, the thing here, but like the Steelers interest me a little bit this year. Same, even to a degree, I think with Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland's going to be as bad as maybe some people kind of think in a way. I think it's safe, outside of maybe Jacksonville, to probably write off some of the AFC South. I mean, Tennessee will probably at least put up fighting chances each week, week in, week out type thing. But yeah, I think it will be a lot of similar players in the FC because, like you said, it's just so quarterback heavy talent wise. It's kind of hard to ignore.
Yeah, I mean, we both do have Houston and the Raiders in our AFC title game. It's kind of tough for those type of teams because you look at Cleveland, like you said, Cleveland is actually a pretty good team, I think, but I don't know where they can go. I mean, you're going to at least have 2 to 3 very good teams miss the playoffs in the
Mhm.
AFC, and kind of good news. It's kind of changed the mindset going in. Is Buffalo Bills is they were looked at as like the number one favorite, the team that everyone was going to root for to go to the Super Bowl last year at the start of last year. This year, they're kind of hanging under the radar a little bit, and they still got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Um, I don't know. I think I think the Bills could actually be even though they've done well lately, I think they could be somewhat of a surprise this year and potentially, being that team that can, dethrone Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC playoff.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills intrigue me because, and this is something I've kind of even talked about a little bit on, one of our other podcasts here at Finger Lakes One with Bills Weekly, where I, it's hard still to necessarily, or it's hard to write them off still, but at the same token, they really didn't do anything in the off season, right? They didn't bring anybody in. They really didn't lose anybody. I know they lost Edmonds, but how much of that really is going to affect them? I don't know. Um, yeah, the Bills are they like at a crossroads of sort in a way? To me, they feel like they're at a crossroads almost, where like the construction of the team, I think, is all right. I still would prefer them to have like a good running back, not to make it sound as if James Cook or any of these guys, right, are bad, right, or Damian Harris or um, whoever, right. But like to me, this is probably going to be the last year in my mind that we'll see this iteration of the roster and maybe even coaching and coaching staff.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Sean McDermott's also the defensive coordinator this year. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility for a team that is expected to win, but maybe not expected to win a Super Bowl, but they have the chance with the Super Bowl. I mean, you got your quarterback. I mean, they got a great receiver. He wants the ball a little bit too much there, Stephon Diggs, but he's still an elite receiver, arguably top 5 in the league. So, I mean, it's really going to come down to how the rest of the division is going to play out. Are the Jets really good? Are the Dolphins going to take a step back? Are they going to take a step forward? Are the Patriots improved? It still could be a division for them to dominate, but with the headlines with the Jets and the additions that they have, and the Dolphins can potentially continuing to prove, it's gonna be intrigued to see how they shape out in that division. Is it a good division or is it a bad division? What's your opinion? AFC's.
I think overall good, but it's interesting. Maybe this is something we can kind of get into more just when we do our predictions here in a couple of minutes. But um, yeah, I really, there's only the one team in New England that doesn't do anything really for me overall. Can't look, anything's possible, right? But I don't think New England's going to really be contending week in, week out. Like, really, to be fair, the other three teams probably should be. Um,
Yeah.
let's transition over here for a couple minutes before we kind of get into some fantasy stuff and then some predictions of sorts. NFC, like you said, Nick, kind of on the back burner, I think, of a lot of people's radars overall this year. Obviously, Philly, even though it's going to be interesting, they have a first place schedule, obviously, this year, but, obviously, Philly's going to be good. Have a hard time believing they won't be. A lot of people high on Detroit, right? But, Minnesota at the same token, is it their time to really kind of step up in a perceived open NFC North division? You go out west, 49ers, Seattle. They're going to probably be the main two, I would imagine, there. And then the South is just a whole
It's there.
mess. It's a whole mess going on there. Maybe even more so even than the AFC South being a mess. NFC South might be more of a debacle. But to me, I do have a hard time believing it's going to be somebody maybe not Philly kind of maybe taking the throne from them this year in terms of as a conference as a whole. But, that being said, year two in Seattle with that team that they got, and they all seem to like playing with each other and everything like that. That really intrigues me. I the San Francisco thing worries me because there's a reason why Brock Purdy was literally the last draft pick. I again, probably a whole tougher different discussion, but the whole entire Trey Lance thing to me was just super confusing and really questioning maybe the long-term projection of what they really feel like they have in the room over there in San Francisco. Um, you know, the West, maybe we kind of throw the Rams in just for now a little bit, even though I don't have a hard time believing they'll hang around the whole year. Um, kind of already mentioned a little bit about the North and the South, but the East, Nick, where our allegiances lie with Washington, the Giants. I see improvement out of even more so like the Giants from last year to this year. I see more improvement going on there. Definitely see improvement in Washington, but Dallas, as much as it pains me to say this, I have a hard time believing they're just going to be bad. I think they're going to be all right at the very worst. So maybe the NFC East, much like the AFC East, will give us the most to talk about even.
Well, the one thing you got to remember with our division, but what's it been? 20 years? We haven't seen a repeat division champion.
That's correct.
Yeah. So can the Eagles finally break that this year? And a lot of people were thinking, oh, the only substitute if they don't win is the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, as much hate as we give them, have played very well in the regular season, especially the last 2 years. They put up some great records. They just can't get it done in the playoffs. Same goes with the Niners. Niners did make the Super Bowl that one year. I think the Niners and Cowboys are very similar. They got great systems, got great defense. Um, the problem is the quarterback. I really do. I think
Right.
if the San Francisco 49ers had a quarterback this last 5 years, whatever it's been, I think they would have had maybe a Super Bowl and potentially two if they had an elite, like a super elite quarterback. Because doesn't matter if it's Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy. That system just works, and the Niners are just built to be a great team. Just don't know if it's good enough to win a Super Bowl. Hasn't been proven that. I think the addition of Christian McCaffrey last year was huge. Now he's got a full year under his belt in San Francisco. I think as much as I don't like Philly, so I'm just gonna go with it. And I think San Francisco's the favorite in the conference. The North, I think, is the most intriguing conference. I think in the NFC. I mean, sure, I would love. I'm a Lions guy. I think you became a Lions guy last year. You were pretty biased with the Lions, and
My guy, Man Campbell.
yeah, I would love to be on the Lions train, but it's the Lions. I can't. I want to say Minnesota's still the favorite to win this division, but here's one of my picks. Not picks, but it's just like here's one of my sleeper picks. I think the Chicago Bears can win this division this year.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I think Justin Fields is a lot better than people give him, even though there are starting to become people that are turning on him in a positive way. And he's still young, and I don't know. I think they're a sexy pick. Bears. I think easy division. I mean, not easy, but it's a winnable division, and we'll see. I guess.
Yeah, let's maybe jump into this stuff now here a little bit. Let's do a little bit of fantasy talk first before we get into the outright predictions and stuff like that and sleepers. We've both pretty much have drafted all of our leagues now at this point. Um, Nothing. I think when you look at most projections, right, nobody really, at least in my mind, really strayed too much one way or another in terms of reaching or not. It's always a relatively ho-hum year in terms of fantasy at the moment. But um, what does intrigue me, I think, is the fact that this is the first year in most formats we've seen, well, at least the past handful or so years, where we saw wide receivers kind of be the top picks. And it's pretty intriguing to me that it kind of happened that way. Now, that being said, I think there was one preferred over the other, obviously, and Justin Jefferson to save Jamar Chase. And I think I have a hot take here fantasy wise, but I'm not high on Chase this year, to be honest. And in our one league that me and you are both in, Nick, I even stayed away from that. I ended up going with Austin Eckler with the number 2 pick over Chase. Um, you know, Something about this year with Cincinnati, I don't know. It's interesting. You brought up the fact about the AFC or the NFC East rather, no repeat winners. Well, no team in the AFC North since they've gone to the 4 divisions in each conference has won 3 straight years.
Oh.
So I'm not using that to base off of one thing for one guy specifically on fantasy, but I'm just not completely high on the Bengals individually this year, like fantasy value wise. Um, I know Burrow, the way it sounds, is going to be back week 1, but um, I think collectively, I do question the health of some of these guys on the Bengals. It's really crept up a lot in the past really year and a half season wise, for football. And I just, and I think, you know, not to not to backtrack a little bit, but you can make the case the same thing with Eckler, I guess, in a way, right? But I don't know. Something about the Bengals this year tells me to kind of maybe stay away from them fantasy wise. I know it might be a zig when there's a lot of zagging going on, but that's just my thought process around the top portion of the drafts this year, especially if, hey, look, we're still a day away from the season when we're recording this, right? Maybe there's still some people drafting, and maybe I'm not alone in this thought.
Your brother Pat's looking for 7 more people in his league that
I
starts
know.
tomorrow.
I saw that.
The text message in a group. But yeah, I agree with you about Chase. I think it's way too high to take him at 2. But this is like the first time since 2016 when it was Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. at the top 2 picks. So it's kind of interesting that we're back to that route with Jefferson and Chase. On my draft board, I did not have Chase as my number 2. I didn't even have Justin Jefferson as my number 1. I was a big McCaffrey guy. I think I go McCaffrey 1, Jefferson 2, and Eckler 3. That was just how I had it. I think Chase maybe around 5. I mean, I have to really look at the top of my head. And maybe he's definitely top. I mean, obviously in the second round is an awesome pick, but yeah, the value wise of him at 2, I think that's a little bit of a stretch because I think wide receivers have just been a lot more deeper in fantasy this year. Running backs are, you want to, the goal I think with running backs is you want to get a guy who's going to, a starter running back. You want to get a guy who's going to get more carries. And if you can get two studs in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and you start out with Eckler, that second pick, that's a great start. I think that's just the way you go with it this year. I don't know if you agree with me on the quarterbacks. I wait for a quarterback. I know Patrick Mahomes is the thing with the top quarterbacks that they're more consistent. I know Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Justin Herberts of the world, that they're great quarterbacks and they're going to do a lot. But man, if you get a Geno Smith or a Daniel Jones or even Dak Prescott's going late, like that's not a bad starter when you've used up your other picks while people are using quarterbacks with receivers and running backs. And I don't know. That's just how I felt like it this year. Excited to see how it goes. I got 6 leagues this year, which is the most for me, so it's going to be a little rough paying attention to all of them at once.
You are crazy. I did 5 a couple of years ago, and I thought that was just way too much for me at the time. But you bring up a good point though, quarterback wise. Like the one guy that sticks out to me always that you can always get mid to late, like Kirk Cousins. Like, we talk about Jefferson. Well, he's the guy who's, obviously health willing is going to be the guy slinging on the ball all year. And you mentioned a ton of guys like Tua's rated late as well, and obviously I know he's got health questions, but like he's not all that different than, say, Mahomes or Allen in that sense, right? And I know that might be a little bit, I mean, you know this especially, and I always look at quarterbacks like if I can get a guy who's really dual threat in that sense, like you can attest to this. I love try getting a guy like Cam Newton when we moved away from keepers initially in our league. I
Yeah.
love trying to get a guy like Cam Newton, right? Even though Drew Brees is the true king in my mind of fantasy quarterbacking, uh, but and that's the thing, right? Like Allen and Mahomes went quick. Well, if you know how to take them in the second round, wait until like the fourth or fifth when like you can definitely probably get Jalen Hurts in there.
Yeah.
Um, at that point, Justin Herbert kind of creeps up there as well, I guess, in a way. So yeah, I guess, I do understand maybe a little bit more the logic behind taking Mahomes and Allen so quick, but to me, it's just not worth it.
No.
Especially like you said, Nick, when there are a plethora of other guys, especially in the mid to later stuff, where sure you might not get the exact numbers you could out of Allen or Mahomes, but you can probably get collectively a better team built instead of that. It's a slam dunk in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think top of my head, like a receiver, like we'll go Keenan Allen. Say you pass up on Keenan Allen for one of those better quarterbacks, and you wind up with a I don't know,
Chris
a
Godwin.
a Tyler Lockett, yeah, Chris
Yeah.
Godwin type, and it's just like, is passing up Keenan Allen for a Chris Godwin that big? Go for Chris Godwin, that it might be a bigger difference than going for Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert, whoever's up there high, and then you go with Kirk Cousins.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So do you have a fantasy sleeper this year well, yeah, like a fantasy sleeper and a fantasy avoidance this year? I know I already alluded to my one avoidance, even though it's a bit ludicrous in some people's eyes, but at least you're with me in the feeling of Jamar Chase anyway.
fantasy sleeper. I think overall my sleeper is Calvin Ridley. I think
Mm.
he's I think he's in great shape. I is what he's told me. uh, but another guy that's a sleeper that shouldn't be a sleeper, in my opinion, is Mike Evans. I think people are just the new Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the division this year. I mean, they won it last year and with the record they had, and it's not like Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback by any means, but he's not like he's some scrub. He's going to get Mike Evans the ball, and I still think Mike Evans could have a great year this year. So that's my sleeper. To avoid staying away, you got to go Jonathan Taylor, I guess. I mean, I personally don't think Jonathan Taylor is going to play this year. I think the 4 weeks are going to be up. They want a first round pick. Nobody's going to give him a first round pick. I think he's just, and I think he's that stubborn that he will not play for the Colts. And I just do not see Jonathan Taylor put it on a football uniform this year. I don't know. It's just my opinion. It's kind of scary.
I did take him, admittedly, but it was like the seventh round when I was able to get him in a draft last night.
Yeah.
So
It's getting worse.
I think at that point it was worth the risk. But I don't know. See, my sleeper is it's in line with you. I don't know if he's necessarily a sleeper, but based on where he's ranked, it kind of caught me off guard. But Evan Ingram, uh, a really good year last year, tight end
Yeah.
wise. And again, maybe a little bit of that position thing we're talking about, similar to quarterback, but tight end, where a lot of people I think were rushing to try and get. And it's interesting because he's hurt right now. Obviously, we don't know the true extent, right? But Kelsey, everybody rushes to try and get him. Your Kittles and stuff like that. But Evan Ingram, he's rated, I know, in the back half of the top 100 in terms of fantasy value. Again, if you're stuck in a position, in my mind, I think a guy like Evan Ingram is gonna continue to be really good. Trevor Lawrence loved throwing to him last year. I have a hard time believing that that's going to not be the case again this year.
Yeah.
So I kind of lean that way. My avoider one this year, it's pretty interesting. I think it goes back to a little bit of I just question some of the logic going on with the team right now. And I think honestly, I think at least a later fantasy value kind of reflected it, but like Deebo Samuel, I'm not high on this year. Obviously there's health stuff with him just from last year, but I just I have a hard time kind of wondering. I have a hard time believing that again, Brock Purdy's the actual answer for the 49ers. And maybe like I said, maybe Trey Lance wasn't the answer, and I get it, but like they're putting their eggs in a basket, and I just don't know if that's going to be the case. And I don't think that translates well, frankly, to fantasy for some of those guys. And you kind of look, and even Kittle's value kind of got dinged up a little bit going into this year. And it's not maybe just them, but like, look, Brandon Ayuk is kind of down a little bit this year as well. Same with Eli Mitchell. So I think, but the main guy in that, Debo, where a lot of people, myself included, like I like taking him because he's got that run value as well, the way they use him. But like I'm not high on him being the quote unquote wideout one there when, frankly, I just don't trust the quarterback situation.
Yep. I think another big thing to look out for is definitely Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple years ago go as a rookie in the first round.
Hey, that's me.
That didn't turn out so well. So we'll see how he does on a weaker team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting. I just don't know. Falcons gonna block for him.
Right. All right, let's get into predictions for the season quickly here before we move on to our picks for the week. Um, like I said, with it being so wide open for me personally, Nick, I think we see some matchups, I think, late in the year in the playoffs that we didn't expect seeing necessarily. Um, you know, is this going to be the year we see one of those teams in the FC, not the Chiefs and not the Bills,
Yeah.
see them in the second, or even I guess the Bengals for this matter, right? In that final weekend of January to try and push themselves to the Super Bowl in the second week of February. I think we do see that this year, but I still think in my mind, as it stands right now, I gotta go with the Chiefs out of the AFC. I have a hard time believing somebody's gonna really dethrone them just yet. Now it could be wrong, right? Mentioned a guy like Jonathan Taylor, maybe he gets traded to maybe he ends up in Buffalo, right? I'm just saying hypothetically here, right? But he ends up in Buffalo. That completely changes the landscape, right? But we have to go with what we know right now. We'll go Chiefs out of the FC. In the NFC, this is where I definitely think I'm taking a team that I don't think people are going to expect outright to be like one of the top teams. And Nick, I can't wait to see your face on this one. I'm saying the Giants. I'm high on the Giants this year. I love Daniel Jones. I think Saquon, we know Saquon's playing. We know he's playing for more money. I think he's going out and just have a great year. I think that defense, um, they have enough of like what I call it the Chiefs. It's a bend don't break type defense. I'm gonna go with the Giants and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year. And I'm gonna go though, unfortunately, with the Chiefs as it stands right now, though, to win. But I'm going Chiefs Giants in the Super Bowl.
Damn, Paul, stop sucking up to me. You got Notre Dame and the Giants in the
I
championship.
know. It's crazy. It's crazy. What's going on with me?
You don't have them winning. It's all right. That's as far as I need them to go for you. But I'm gonna be a little different. I think they're flying under the radar a little bit. Just a tad. Um, just because of what happened in the preseason. But I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Okay.
The Bengals, I think, just experience time. Got 10 minutes remaining. I see it on the clock. 10 minutes to go. We're recording, but here we go. I'm going to go Bengals beat the Chiefs in the conference championship. I just think experience, and I think Joe Burrow needs to get it. And I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to get back to the Super Bowl. And here's why they're not going to win, because they still don't have a quarterback. I'm going to go Bengals over the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, let's move into our week one picks. So Thursday night, pretty interesting matchup. Usually we get like a Super Bowl rematch, but we don't this year. Lions at the Chiefs. And remember, for picks this year, we're keeping track of them. I will give the spread, but we're picking on the straight up. Lions at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 4.5 point favorite. I'm going with Kansas City.
I'm going to go Kansas City as well. Unfortunately, I think the Lions could get blown out.
All right. So the first 1 p.m. window game on Sunday that I have, Cardinals at the Commanders. Commanders are a touchdown favorite. I guess for the sake of homerism, even though in this case it's not going to make a difference. Cardinals are going to be really bad this year. I'm going with Washington.
Wow, they lose that game. You're not going to pick them the rest of the season once again. I'm going to go
That's
Washington.
correct.
I'm going to go Washington as well.
Okay. All right. The next game on the docket, Panthers at the Falcons. Falcons are a 3.5 point favorite at home. Nick, who you got there?
I'm going to go. It's at the Falcons.
It's at Atlanta. Yep.
I'm going to go Atlanta is going to win this game.
Well, we have our first difference, Nick. I'm going to zig here. I'm going to go Carolina. I think it's more of a toss-up game than maybe the line kind of has. I like the Panthers defense a little bit better than I like the Falcons defense. I think offensively it's a toss-up. So I'll go with this, the edge on defense there. Next game, Bengals at the Browns. The Browns, a home dog, getting 2.5 points.
Joe Burrow's a question mark. He might play, but I'm going to go Browns in this game. I'm going to go Cleveland Browns with the stunner in week 1.
That will make two of us then. I'm going with the Browns as well. Just like you said, Nick, too many question marks for a guy that matters so much for the team. I got to go with the Browns there. Next game, Jaguars at the Colts. Colts getting 5 points at home. That does not matter to me. I'm taking Jacksonville.
I'm taking Jacksonville as well.
All right. All righty. Next on the docket then is the Buccaneers at the Vikings. Vikings 6 point favorites at home. Kind of the same deal here. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm taking Minnesota.
I agree. Minnesota.
All right. Tennessee at New Orleans. New Orleans a 3 point favorite at home. I'm going to take a road dog here. I'm going to take Tennessee. I think the first full week of a new quarterback, new system in New Orleans kind of catches up. No Alvin Kamara as well. I'm going to go Tennessee here.
You did explain it, but why,
Yes,
Paul?
yes. Even though I said it, you'll just hit the 15 seconds back button for my explanation.
Yeah, Derek Carr, man. Michael Thomas is back at the Superdome. I got the Saints winning this game.
Okay. Next up, we have the 49ers at the Steelers. The Steelers, a 2 point home dog.
I'm gonna go 49ers. It's gonna be could be a close one though. I mean, it's gonna be close.
I'm taking the home dog here. I'm taking Pittsburgh. I like what they have this year. I really do. So that's where I'm leaning. Final game of the 1 o'clock window, Texans at the Ravens. The Ravens are the biggest spread here in week 1, a 10 point favorite at home over Houston.
I'm gonna go Ravens. I don't know if they're gonna cover though.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of that, but yeah, I'm taking Baltimore as well. First of the 4 o'clock window, all at 4:25 for week 1. Packers at the Bears. The Bears, small favorite at home, point favorite at home. I'm taking Chicago. The Packers, I don't know what to make of them this year, to be honest. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be outright as bad as people kind of just assume they're going to be, but I don't think out of the gate it's going to be pretty.
I got the Bears.
Yeah. All right. Next game, the Raiders are on the road in Denver. Denver, a 3.5 point favorite. I'm taking a road dog here. I like the Raiders in this spot. I don't. A lot of people are high on Denver this year. I'm not really high on Denver. Week 1, I'm going to take the Raiders though.
I'm not high on Denver this year, but I think Sean Payton and Russell Wilson might steal some week one storylines. I'm going with Denver in this game.
All right. Eagles at the Patriots. The Patriots are getting 4 points at home. I'm surprised the spread isn't honestly a little bit bigger there, but I'm taking Philly nonetheless.
Going upset. Week 1 upset. I think New England gets this one done at home.
Wow, really? All right. So let's see here. Just making sure I got my notes right here. Okay. Dolphins at the Chargers. Chargers a 3 point favorite at home.
I think the Chargers still got a little bit of a hangover from that choke from the playoffs. I'm going Dolphins.
I'm going the same only because I really think the Dolphins are just the better team, frankly. So
Fair.
final of the Sunday afternoon games, the Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks giving 5 at home.
Yeah, at home. I like Seattle.
Same as well. All right, Sunday night football. The Cowboys at the Giants. The Giants 3.5-point dog at home. I'm taking the home dog here. I'm going the Giants over the Cowboys on
I
Sunday
hope
night.
so, man. I'm going Giants as well. Never will I ever take the Cowboys over the Giants.
And to wrap up week 1 of the NFL on Monday night, Bills at the Jets. The Jets getting 2.5 points at home. Doesn't matter to me. I'm taking Buffalo.
Yeah, man. Old Fresh Takes episodes. We used to do a lock in a week. I love this lock right here. Was it 2.5? You said
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Bills are going to win this game by 10. I take it the Bills.
All right. So picks are in for week 1. 5 differences though, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see which games we zig and zag there. All right, couple minutes, Nick, left. Just quickly here, a couple seconds. What'd you make of the NCAA opening couple weeks?
Oh, Colgate. I learned they had a football team, man. That's what I took away. I thought they were just a basketball program. But Ohio State's a little sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's gonna have a bad year, maybe.
Yeah.
LSU, the Pac-12 is good. I mean, what else did not take away from the extended week 1? But Notre Dame looks good. They haven't played anybody yet. NC State's a little bit better. So be intrigued. Syracuse, I said Syracuse is gonna go 4-0. So they're off to the expected start. I'm just enjoying it. Pac-12 got some really good talent, and then of course Colorado.
Yeah.
Getting the win. Maybe TCU might be down this year, but still, nonetheless, great win for Colorado.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic opening couple weeks. If you've been keeping up on here, I made picks for week 0. I made a few picks last week as well on TikTok. I got 5 picks for this week. Run through them quickly. Friday night, Illinois at Kansas. I have Kansas. Saturday, the rest of the 4 games that I have allotted to. Notre Dame at NC State. I have Notre Dame. Marshall at East Carolina. Give me Marshall. Texas at Alabama. Huge matchup there. I have Alabama at home. And then Oregon at Texas Tech. I have Oregon in that matchup as well. So that will wrap up Fresh Takes for today. Appreciate everybody for listening and tuning in.
The people in my ear are saying we got 1:20.
Yeah, it's less than that now at this point. So quickly, Nick, do you have a shout out? Who you're shouting out?
Yeah, my uncle Joe Crisani, Geneva native, still lives in Geneva. It's his birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Uncle Joe.
Right. Happy birthday, Uncle Joe. One of my favorite people back in the day. Big fan of our CYO stuff back in the day. So
hell yeah.
Happy birthday to Uncle Joe. So Nick, great at least catching up with you. I know you're pinned, like you said, at your house as they do some road
still hitting, yep.
Yeah, still road construction outside there. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll see you in studio hopefully next week. And we'll catch everybody next week on Fresh Takes.